Weapons shot past a free-falling Fantastic Four first steps and a somewhat frigid Freakier Friday to handily top the box office this week. Welcome to Box Office Revival. I'm Brandon Gray, the creator of Box Office Mojo, and I'm here to bring the mojo back to the box office. So if you're looking for accuracy, perspective, and integrity in box office reporting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you, and let's dive in. Fueled by the buzz from its mysterious premise and trailers, Weapons racked up $37.8 million on its opening weekend, and by its first Sunday, the horror thriller had already surpassed the $40.8 million final total of Barbarian, the previous horror movie from writer-director Zach Kreger, which was used to help promote Weapons. But I must emphasize that Weapons' premise was its primary selling point here. This horrific mystery of what happened to these kids from the same class doing their Naruto run into the darkness. If you see the movie, you'll note that the opening scene alone provided the movie's marketing campaign. Horror in general is an easy sell, but to have the movie itself do most of the work for the marketing department goes above and beyond. Through Wednesday, its sixth day of release, Weapons' total stands at $60 million, which is already nearly double what last summer's buzzy horror movie Longlegs had through the same point. And it's also over 80% ahead of The Black Phone from summer 2022 at the 6-day mark. Weapons is more of a crowd pleaser than Longlegs as well. Weapons is packing an A- from CinemaScore, which polls opening night moviegoers, versus the C+ that Longlegs and Barbarian received. Horror movies, especially twisty ones, tend to get graded harshly on CinemaScore, so an A- is a great grade, akin to The Conjuring 1 and 2, The Sixth Sense, and Get Out. And it's even better than Black Phone's B+. Without spoiling it, I would say a key reason that Weapons scores highly with audiences is because it not only provides the thrills, but also, shall we say, a cathartic ending, which is not always the case with these pictures. Among 2025 horror movies, Weapons' $37.8 million opening weekend ranks third behind Sinners' $43.3 million and Final Destination Bloodlines' $46.1 million, as you can see on this chart. And all three of these movies are from Warner Brothers. You might have heard that with Weapons, Warner Brothers is the first studio to have 6 consecutive $40 million plus opening weekends. Well, that's not true, because Weapons came in at $37.8 million, as I said. And that's not to take anything away from Weapons. It's doing great at the box office. I'm just correcting the record. Oftentimes, the media sounds like a press release or blows some minor statistic out of proportion just to make their articles or YouTube videos seem meatier than they actually are. But the broader point still stands that since Mickey 17 flopped in March, Warner Brothers has been on a hot streak with 6 wins in a row. A Minecraft movie, Sinners, Final D, Bloodlines, F1 the movie, Superman to some extent, and now Weapons. Sinners and Final D are already on HBO Max, by the way, and that means Weapons should be on HBO Max in time for Halloween. These Warner Brothers movies typically have a 2.5-month window between their theatrical debuts and their HBO Max debuts, even when their box office smashes. Superman is currently getting some flack for landing on premium video on demand on August 15th, just 35 days after its theatrical release date. But I would say it's more disconcerting that it will likely be on HBO Max by the end of September. So why spend $20 or $30 now to see Superman at home when in a very short time it will be on HBO Max? Or in other words, if you miss these Warner Brothers movies in theaters, you might as well just wait a bit for them to land on HBO Max. Now, aside from those streaming shenanigans, Warner Brothers should be commended for their conservative Sunday projections. When actual grosses were tabulated, Minecraft, Sinners, Final D, F1, Superman, and now Weapons all beat their Sunday projections. Here's a closer look at Weapons. You see that the studio reported a 26% Saturday to Sunday drop, but when the actual box office was tabulated, Weapons' drop was only 19%. So the movie came in around $1 million higher than what was reported on Sunday. Now, on the other hand, there's Disney, which usually overestimates their Sundays, though they did a bit better this weekend. Progress, not perfection, I suppose. So Disney projected a 21% Saturday to Sunday drop for Freakier Friday, but the drop turned out to be 28%. That means they were 400,000 over. Now, I know that sounds like a small difference, and it was compared to Fantastic Four on the previous weekend, but the point is that their projection was unfounded. not just compared to other movies in the market, but to Freaky Friday 2003, which had its weekend on the same dates, just a different year. That movie fell 27% on Sunday. So Disney could have been much closer by just following Freakier Friday's own predecessor. However, it seems like Disney accepted the reality of the Fantastic Four and have started to make estimates accordingly. Their projection proved slightly conservative, so First Steps beat its weekend estimate this time, 15.8 versus 15.5. Now, when Disney scheduled Freakier Friday for the precise 22nd anniversary of Freaky Friday 2003, I doubt they were expecting to come in second to an unknown quantity like Weapons. Just think, it could have been so perfect to have a 1-2 punch of alliteration, with Freakier Friday at number 1 and Fantastic Four at number 2. Given the first weekend box office success of millennial nostalgic Lego sequels lately, like Lilo and Stitch and Final D, such a fantasy wasn't out of line, but you don't have to be number 1 to be a hit. So how do we rate Freakier Friday's $25.5 million opening weekend? Well, generally, a Lego sequel should have a much higher grossing opening than its predecessor to be seen as an unmitigated success, especially when ticket prices have nearly doubled in the interim, as was the case here. Freaky Friday 2003 debuted on the same weekend with the same dates as Freakier and made $22.2 million, so Freakier does not pass that test. According to Intelligence, by way of Deadline, Freakier Friday's attendance was an estimated 2.2 million, while Weapons was 2.8 million. That level of attendance might get you 13 or 14 million opening in 2003, so clearly Freaky Friday 2003 had far greater attendance than Freakier Friday 2025. To be fair, comedy sequels aren't easy to pull off, and the Lego sequels that perform worse than their predecessors tend to be comedies. Think The Odd Couple 2, Dumb and Dumber 2, Zoolander 2, or the new Naked Gun movie now in theaters. Freakier Friday's first weekend was also nearly identical to the Mean Girls musical remake from 2024, which did not last long, grossing just $73 million by the end of its run. With some summer runway and positive audience scores, Freakier Friday should fare better than Mean Girls 2024 in the long run, but has Freakier Friday made a strong enough case to complete the Lindsay Lohan trifecta and bring back The Parent Trap? And now for the continuing flame out of the Fantastic Four First Steps. Marvel's First Family plummeted 59% to $15.8 million, and in doing so fell even further behind Superman at the same point. Here are their third weekends compared. Superman not only made more, but held better, down 57%. Superman's total was $289.5 million at that point, or 25% ahead of F4's $230.7 million. Now, to be fair, Weapons and Freakier Friday took over premium screens from Fantastic Four, accounting for some of that 59% decline. But at the same point, Superman lost its premium screens to Fantastic Four, which was direct competition in terms of genre and audience. Weapons and Freakier Friday were not direct hits, so what's Fantastic Four's excuse? Bottom line is that F4 is simply not as broadly appealing a premise and movie as Superman. It's mostly appealing to a base of Marvel or MCU fans, whereas Superman was, as expected, a greater draw for normies. Now, looking outside of the MCU and DCU, let's consider Fantastic Four First Steps versus the best of its direct predecessors, Fantastic Four 2005. Well, 2005 held better, but First Steps clobbered it in total gross, 231 versus 123. But adjust for ticket price inflation, and 2005 was roughly the same in total gross. First Steps will have to rely on this late summer corridor to ultimately surpass 2005 in estimated attendance in order to claim that fantastic crown. So I can't in good conscience call First Steps a box office bomb when it's on track to become the biggest Fantastic Four movie and has already achieved that title in terms of raw dollars. Just because it's the MCU and the lead up to Avengers Doomsday does not escape the fact that it's a Fantastic Four movie first and foremost. I mean, what did you expect it to do? I mean, if Marvel expected Fantastic Four to be their salvation, then that was a mistake. And conceptually, Marvel did not set this up for success. They set it in this alternate fantastical world that's then about to be destroyed by Galactus when we've never experienced this world to begin with. And then on top of that, they're introducing a baby when normies barely know the Fantastic Four in the first place. So despite being called First Steps, this Fantastic Four movie felt like a sequel to a movie we never saw. It's harder to bring in general audiences with that approach. Hypothetically, though, if the MCU was still in its prime, would First Steps have done better? Sure. The goodwill and momentum of the franchise would have convinced more people to see it. But as it stands, given the state of the franchise and the approach, it did about as well as could reasonably be expected. Also, this past weekend, The Bad Guys 2 tumbled 46% to $10.6 million, a smaller second weekend and a steeper drop-off than the first Bad Guys, but thanks to those juicy summer weekdays, Bad Guys 2's total gross was just $1 million behind Bad Guys 1, 43.6 versus 44.6. Rounding out the top 5, The Naked Gun drew $8.3 million. With a 45% drop, I can't say the comedy has sprouted legs all of a sudden, but it's not falling on its face either. Now, let's take a quick look at the top grossing movies of 2025 so far. There were no changes in ranking this week, so it's going to be a real quick look here. It's because I want to move on now to worldwide box office. Fantastic Four officially became the biggest Marvel movie of 2025. At $435 million, First Steps climbed to 8th place, surpassing Captain America Brave New World's $415 million and Thunderbolt's $382 million. Meanwhile, Jurassic World Rebirth finally opened in Japan, and it tripled Fantastic Four's opening there, and it pushed its worldwide tally past the $800 million mark. Rebirth won't get to $1 billion like its Jurassic World predecessors, but it still mops the floor with the best of DC and the MCU in 2025. And that's a wrap for now. Thank you for tuning into Box Office Revival. We'll keep tracking weapons, Fantastic Four, Superman, and more, so be sure to like this video if you liked it, and subscribe to the channel, especially if you want to support objective reporting on the box office. This has been Brandon Gray, creator of Box Office Mojo. Thank you for watching.